This presentation is about integrating poetry and language arts in the content area. This is one of my favorite parts of this course because we get to have fun, and we are going to talk about different forms of assessment. I call it alternative assessment. Poetry brings a sense of meaning and experiences together in words and sentences. Using poetry to understand vocabulary or characters are an excellent way to allow students to creatively express their understanding of concepts. And when I say this, I also mean that you can tell that they are critically reflecting on what they learn. In addition, teachers can assess students' comprehension and personal interpretation of what they learn through poetry. Students are allowed to write their own reflections and understand through wordplay and poetry. Here are a few examples. One is something called an acrostic poem. Some of you may remember this. The students or the teacher choose a key word and write it vertically on a sheet of paper. Students then create lines of poetry by beginning with the letter of the word. Another variation is to bold the letters and have students create words around the letter. There's an example of the word Jean that we will discuss. Students should publish their poetry on a poster and share it with the class. After they write it up, I always encourage teachers to have them publish it and put it, for instance, on a poster, post it on the wall, and this is something that all the students can admire and look at. Students should also be encouraged to work in groups. One of the words that this one student he learned was volcano, and instead of describing or giving a definition of a volcano, he creatively wrote down what he learned. And so volcano, V, volatile explosion, occasionally erupts, lava over rocks, can we get out of the way? Ash can come out too, not safe, oh my. Do you think that he learned about volcanoes? Did you like the creative way that he expressed what he learned about volcanoes? Here are some other ones. The word gene, this was a 9th grader, and he actually wrote this one. He wrote, generates differences, sequence of DNA, no two alike chromosome. You can definitely tell he did learn about the word. And there's some examples for apple, weather. This was an English language learner, Steve. He wrote about extreme weather, and you can see that he put some words in there together. Melody. This was a music class, and this is what one student said. He said, music, enjoyable, lovely, outstanding with lyrics, dazzling, you can sing to it. This is an example of how we can integrate poetry, the acrostic poem, with a person, and it reflects what the student or what the person writing the poem thinks about the person. So this one was actually from my daughter, and she wrote, this is what she thinks of me. She wrote, dear Mom, here are things that are true about you. Mom, your hair is so beautiful. Oh, I love your makeup and hair. Takes me to special places. Hugs me before I go to bed. Enjoys seeing me read. Reminds me of things I enjoy. Happy Mother's Day. I love this because, once again, she integrated poetry. She really had to think about what her thoughts of me, and she put it down into a poem. This was on her own that she did. The I am poems are wonderful because, once again, if you're learning about Abraham Lincoln, if you're learning about a person, you can have the students think about, if they were that person, what they would, who they would be. So I am, it could be Abraham Lincoln. I feel, how do you think Abraham Lincoln would feel? I think, what do you think that Abraham Lincoln would be thinking of? And what he likes, what he doesn't like, and then something I have, and then and this is an example that we did. We integrated with science. So we learned about the sun, and I asked the students to imagine if they were the sun. We learned about it, and so this is what one of the students wrote. I am the sun. I feel hot. I think people like me. I like to make the earth warm. I am made of hydrogen and helium. I was impressed with that because we learned about hydrogen and helium. I provide energy. I provide heat. I provide light. So after they wrote this out, I usually had them write it in groups sometimes, and then they were able to draw and really make it look nice and put it on poster paper. And what we did was every week we had a theme. They had their I am poems up around the classroom. The next one is very similar. It's called a bio poem. And this is where they write their first name, 4 characteristics about that person, or about, it could be an object also, and you'll see this, relative of, lover of, who feels, who needs, who fears, who gives, who would, resident of, last name. Oftentimes we think about this poetry with elementary kids, but we have done this with high school kids, and it's amazing what comes out. This was great. This was actually somebody who wrote about a square. This was a geometry, it was a class in geometry, and so they learned about the square, and this is how creative one person was. Square, polygon, 4 equal sides, 4 equal angles, and quadrilateral. Relative of rectangle, rhombus, and parallelogram. Lover of equality, parallel ideas, and being closed. Who feels strict, obedient, and distinct. Who need fours, accuracy, and understanding. Who fears sloppiness, being out of shape, and being unbalanced. That was very creative. Who gives structure, graphing paper, and definition of area. Who would like to see triangles inside, discartes, and being used in architecture. Resident of, I thought this was clever, geometry. And pants is because the first part was square, which is the first name, and then you're supposed to put the last name. So this person put pants, square pants, like SpongeBob. But basically what you would do is it could be an object. I had somebody in English class, they actually put down a bio poem about an apostrophe, about how an apostrophe feels and what their relatives of. We've done this with science, we've done this with physical education, PE, art, music, everything. So it doesn't always have to be a person, it could be an object or a concept. Here are some other examples of poetry, just having them think about this. And instead of just having them write a definition, they will do a definition poem. And basically it's wordplay. This is called Diamanted Poem, and I love this especially for the English language arts classes because once again, it's not as easy as you think. It's a 7-line poem written in the shape of a diamond. It helps the students apply their knowledge of the subject and opposites and parts of speech. This actually makes them think about what it is that they're learning. So for instance, when we did one on elephant, they had to think of 2 adjectives describing the subject, which is just describe the elephant, and then 3 verbs, and then 4 nouns, and this was nice because 2 related to the subject and 2 that are the opposite. So it has them think about what they learned about the object or the person or the concept, and then they really have to critically reflect on what they know about it. And the reason why I love all of these poems is it has you use your imagination, creativity, and express what you learned about the object.